and welcome to another educational video about screen printing by Catspit Productions. This video is about a topic that I get questions on almost every day, and that is how to print white ink on black shirts or dark garments. Okay, and I would say from the tone and the content of a lot of the message that I get about printing white ink, you guys are having days kind of like this. Oh, son of a friggin' thing, nabbit. Why can't I that friggin' white ink? I don't. And I don't want you to have days like that. So I'm here to give you a few tips on how to print white ink on dark garments. And please note that you could use these tips for printing high opacity colored inks on dark garments as well, okay? So the first thing that you're gonna wanna consider is your mesh count. Generally speaking, you wanna use an open mesh count such as a 110. You don't really wanna print white ink using a 156, a 195, or a 200 mesh count. That's just gonna make it really, really difficult for you to get the coverage that you want in order to have those bright whites, okay? So the first thing would be your mesh count, okay? Use the most open mesh count that you can possibly use in conjunction with being able to get the detail out in your exposure, obviously, okay? So, you know, the more open mesh count you can use, the better off you're gonna be. Secondly, with mesh, the tension is also critical for good coverage and a nice smooth print. So in order for the ink to clear out of the mesh nice and easily, it needs to be tight. So on a metal frame, you want that thing to be at least 20 newtons, you know, between 18 to 20 newtons. If you're lower than that, it's gonna, you know, be a little bit more difficult to get the ink to shear and pull through the mesh when you lift it up off of your printed t-shirt, okay? So mesh tension is something that you really want to consider when you're working with white inks. And you know, honestly, you want tight mesh for everything, you know what I'm saying? Okay, thirdly, you're gonna want to use a low durometer, a soft squeegee. Typically we use about a 70 durometer in the shop for screen printing textiles, but when you use white ink, when you're working with white ink, you probably would want to go down to a 60 durometer or perhaps a 65 durometer, and it's nice and soft, okay? And the soft squeegee is going to also help you get that coverage and the opacity that you want, okay? And also note at this time that your flood and stroke is going to be critical to, you know, printing white ink on black t-shirts or dark garments. So you're going to have to finesse your flood and stroke, and the 60 durometer squeegee is going to help you do that. So, you know, don't overlook the squeegee. That's an important part of the whole thing, okay? Now, going on to one of the last things I'll talk about is, first of all, white ink can be very thick, okay? You can see right here, I can almost pick up the whole bucket with this mixer. I've got a mixer in here, and that brings us to mixing. All right, a lot of Plastisol inks will, you know, they're called thixotropic, meaning that as you mix them or as you work them on the screen when you're printing, they're going to get smoother, creamier, and a little bit thinner, so to speak. Okay, so in order to help you with a white ink, especially, you can actually mix it before you work with it, and that will make it more creamy, more smooth, and more workable. Now, a gallon of white ink can be very difficult to mix, right? So, what you want to do is you're gonna have to use a power drill, and I'm gonna show you how to mix this. It's very, very difficult with one person, but I'll show you how I get along with doing it by myself. So let's take a quick look at that before I give you last few tips on this. All right, before I show you this little mixing deal, I just wanted to mention off contact, because I've cut this video a few times and I keep forgetting to mention off contact. So when you're printing white ink or high opacity colors and you really want that good coverage, remember to set the off contact on the press and use it. If you don't use off contact, you're gonna have a difficult time getting the coverage that you want. All right, so now for mixing, basically I have, and as you can see, this stuff is very thick. But basically I have a paint mixer in here, okay? And you can get these from Home Depot or you know, Lowe's or any hardware store. You can find paint mixers like this. And you're gonna attach it to your drill, okay? And this is a very dangerous thing, so be very careful, because when you put this thing into the ink and you try to mix it, the ink is so thick that the bucket is going to want to spin or flip around. So if you have somebody who can help you, I would recommend that highly. Have somebody hold the bucket securely, and that way you can actually work the drill with two hands, okay? Use two hands to work the drill. All right, but in this case, I'm just going to show you a little bit how you might do it if you were by yourself. And it's important to use a variable speed drill so that I can gently get the thing to go. And this is probably not the greatest thing for your electric motor, but just this little bit of agitation is going to help the thixotropic properties of this ink to you know, make it smoother and creamier. Okay, and like I said, I'm alone, so I can't really, you know, get at it the way I would like to with two hands, so I do it like this. And remember, it's very dangerous. You can actually twist your wrist. You can hurt yourself badly doing this. So I really suggest using somebody to help you so you can have two hands on the drill. Okay, and basically that's it. You're going to go around the bucket and just mix it the best that you can. Okay, so I would just turn this around, stick this over in here, pull it up again, and just continue to mix the ink to the best of my ability. Okay, and again guys, be very careful. If you try to do this at home with a power tool, please be very careful. It can be very, very dangerous. And not only can you get hurt, but you can spring and fling and swing this ink all over the shop. And I've done that before in the past, and let me tell you, it's a mess to clean up. So just be very careful, okay? All right, so it's not the funnest thing to do in the shop. So, you know, if you can do this on a regular basis, your ink will probably stay creamier. You know, it'll be easier to do. You know, and if you guys ever notice any clear liquid that's sitting in the little pits and stuff in the top of your ink, that's probably plasticizer that's come out of solution. So doing this will mix it back into solution. Okay? And that's it. And you can see the consistency is very creamy, but yet it's still thick. White ink is supposed to be thick. That's why it has its opacity. Alright, so you guys get the gist. It could take you a little while to get through the whole bucket and go around and mix it all by yourself. But if you had somebody holding the bucket and you're able to use two hands on the drill, it would go a little faster. Alright, so that's it for mixing. Okay, so you can see mixing Plastisol inks can be dangerous and adventurous and you know, difficult. It's not that easy. So you know, but it's very important and it can help you out. You know, so I really encourage you to mix your inks before usage anytime that you can. And that also brings us to room temperature. One of the last two things that I'll tell you is that room temperature, obviously the cooler or colder your ink is, the thicker it's going to be. So it's always good to work with it at around room temperature, which would be, you know what, around 70, 72 degrees. That way it's not going to be thick as plaster of Paris. Okay, and finally, I'm going to say, never add reducers to your white ink or any ink that you're trying to gain opacity or coverage. Never add a reducer or a thinner or a soft hand or anything like that, because it will reduce the opacity of the ink and therefore cause you to have to lay more ink down to get that coverage, get that opacity. So it kind of defeats the purpose on, you know, black shirts or dark garments. So never add reducers, thinners, soft hand bases, or anything like that to your white ink or your high opacity colors that you might be printing on a dark t-shirt or a black t-shirt, okay? And I think that's about it. All right, if you have any questions about printing white ink on dark garments, feel free to ask in the comments below or message me on YouTube. I really appreciate you guys checking out my videos. And please remember that you can get screen printing supplies at a discount from the Catspit Productions website. Just visit the print supplies page and check out all the deals from various vendors that we have there. And the purchases that you make on the print supplies page help support the continued production of free videos coming right at you on YouTube. And I really appreciate it. I appreciate your support, and I appreciate your time checking out the videos. So thanks a lot for watching. And if you like what you see, comment below, rate thumbs up, and please subscribe. We'll see you next time.